地球の上に誰もいなけりゃ泣くこともできない返せ返せ緑を青空を返せ返せ青い海を返せ返せ返せ返せ返せ命を太陽返せ返せ返
What's going on, people? LP 2000 right back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back to Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. On behalf of Summit Kaiju, yeah, got me a new shirt. Got to represent for Summit Kaiju, you know what I mean? Yeah, got me a new shirt. Looks awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy Souls. Thank you, Sandra. Really do appreciate it. But yeah, it's been a minute. I feel like it's been a minute since we've last seen each other. I think the last time we were together, the last time I did something on my channel, was I think the 1970s Godzilla discussion, and that was like maybe what, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So it's been a while. Been working a lot, been real busy lately. Gotten a few new figures as of late, more on that later. And I know I've been saying I've been wanting to get to this guy and get to this guy. I've been saying that for the past few videos over the past couple of months, you know, but I didn't want to delay it any longer. Like I mentioned, I do have a few new figures that I just gotten. But before I go into these new ones, I wanted to go into this one. And today we're taking a look at the X Plus 25 centimeter soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah Ric Exclusive Edition, based off his iconic appearance in the awesome, funky, weird, psychedelic Godzilla film from 1971. Godzilla vs. Hedorah, also known as Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. And as you can see, I have the beautiful figure here, as well as the awesome mini Ric piece along with Hedorah. Just a great piece. And you know, we do things around here. Normally we would get into the box or the packaging before we get into the figure, but I tossed the packaging a long time ago. But from what I understand, it came in like a bag, you know what I mean? It came, of course it came in like in an outer protective box, you know, for shipping purposes, obviously, but it didn't come in like in the normal 25 centimeter, you know, window display Toho Large Monster Series boxes, you know, or like any other brown box with like a black silhouette of the figure, picture of the figure on the front. It came in a bag with the header card that says soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah. And I think because of the material, because this is a soft vinyl figure. Now it's vinyl, but it's squishy soft a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's very soft vinyl. It's made of very soft vinyl. Not too soft where you can just squish it like a sponge, you know what I mean? But it does, you know, have a little bit of squishiness here and there, pretty much all over the body, whatever. I do suggest if you do get this figure or any other soft vinyl figures from X Plus, please don't try to overexert too much, you know. Don't try to squeeze it to the point where you're gonna pop out the eyes or do something damage, you know, some irreversible damage to the figure, you know what I mean? So yes, this is a soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah Ric Exclusive Edition, based off his appearance in Godzilla vs. Hedorah or Godzilla vs. Smog Monster. Not too much of a long backstory with this guy, you know what I mean? We first saw pictures of this guy at Summer Wonder Festival last year, 2018. We saw unpainted prototype pictures of this figure, and it got released, I want to say, October of that year, 2018. And Originally, I was not going to get this. When this was announced and when we saw this was coming, I originally was not going to get this because I'm starting to be more selective with my figure acquisitions, you know. Not trying to say I'm getting crammed for space. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have as much space now as I did when I first started collecting. So right now I'm at a point in my collecting phase or just collecting in general that I have to be real, almost very choosy and picky with what I want to add to my collection. And so that year I was really passing on a lot of stuff because normally I would just get everything that X Plus does. You know what I'm saying? If it has X Plus name on it, and then if it's a monster that I really do enjoy, I'm going to get the figure regardless. But starting last year, I've been, like I said, really picky and choosy with what I got or what I wanted to get. And Hedorah was something I was like, well, I got the 30 centimeter light up version, I got the landing stage version, and I got the 25 centimeter final force form of Hedorah. And even though I am a fan of Hedorah, you know, I love Hedorah, I was like, you know what, I really don't need this new one. You know what I mean? But I did say in my X Plus haul video of 2018, I did say that if there were a figure that I wish I can go back and try and get, looking back on it now, it would be this one. And so I was able to find one earlier this year for a good price. Pretty much the same price that it was when it first came out, mind you. And I jumped on it, you know what I mean? And that's the backstory with me getting this figure. Once again, I have a soft spot for Hedorah, no pun intended, because it's a soft vinyl figure. And now that I have it, I'm glad I picked it up. I'm so glad I didn't pass on this figure. You know what I mean? So you know, do things around here. Let's get up close and personal with this guy. Yes, if you're familiar with the X Plus Hedorahs, they have done a great job with every Hedorah they have produced. It's just that the color scheme on his body, just a sludge color. You know, it has hints of yellow all over his body, which basically just signifies or emphasizes the sulfuric properties or the sulfur inside of Hedorah's body. You know what I'm saying? And since this is the version of Hedorah that makes, I would say, probably the third time we see Hedorah. Now, the first time we see Hedorah in the film is of course, the tadpole, right, in the ocean. Then it makes landfall and starts smoking, you know, these smokestacks, as a matter of fact. More on that later on. That's when Godzilla comes in to confront him, and then he, like, spins him around, and then Hedorah basically tries to get away from Godzilla. And when that couple leaves the nightclub, after Hedorah tries to drown the nightclub, but he ends up somehow sparing a kitty cat. You remember that scene. The couple goes to their car to try to get away from the nightclub and to get away from Hedorah, and they spot Hedorah and Godzilla, and Hedorah is on all fours, the crawling version, trying to get away from Hedorah. I mean, to get away from Godzilla, excuse me. So this is the version that X Plus has done, and they have done a fantastic job of recreating that version of Hedorah. Now, once again, with this being somewhat of an early version of Hedorah, he doesn't have like he does have like red spots here and there on his body, and because the red spots are very apparent on the 30 centimeter version of Hedorah. You know, the final, basically adult form of Hedorah. But here is only small hints of it. You know, just shows that Hedorah was in his early infancy at this point. You know what I mean? Now, mind you, as far as like soft vinyl version of Hedorah, this is actually the second one that they have done. The first one they have done is the landing stage, right? You know, they brought out the landing stage the first time. I forgot what year it was. Then they reissued it. I want to say last year. I think it was last year that they brought out the landing stage form of Hedorah. Like Diamond reissued it, you know. And then I think around a couple months before that, I think the landing stage of Hedorah through Diamond came out in June. But they brought out a soft vinyl version of that same sculpt of the landing stage Hedorah, like I want to say April or something like that. You know what I mean? So this is actually the second version of Hedorah they have done in a soft vinyl form. And they're not done yet. At the time of recording, it is September, the 7th, 2019. And they're going to release actually the 25 centimeter final fourth form of Hedorah in the soft vinyl form. And let me just tell you this. It's coming out in October. And let me tell you this, if there ever was a kaiju that needed or could benefit the most from being a soft vinyl figure or at least benefit from having soft vinyl material incorporated into the sculptor figure, Hedorah is really like the only one, or at least the best one, I should say, that could benefit from this, because it makes it look more lifelike. Even as I'm touching it, it's kind of weird touching it. If you know, especially if you saw the film, you know what I'm saying. Basically, Hedorah is like a walking sludge, walking piece of sludge, walking piece of crap. Now, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, right? But I think the soft vinyl material on Hedorah actually makes it more appealing, you know what I'm saying? Makes it more desirable, you know what I'm saying? Once again, I passed on this initially, but after seeing photographs and seeing a couple of reviews on this guy, it's like, you know what? If I could find one for a good price, at least for a price that was close to when it originally came out, because you know, when a figure comes out and after it stays on the market, you know, in the aftermarket for like 3 months at a time, after that point, the price jumps up, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not like they make a whole bunch of these figures, you know what I mean? So I knew if I was going to go after one at such a late stage in the game, I knew I'd be spending a whole lot more than maybe I want to spend. But honestly, I was able to find one good for a good price. And like I said, I think I paid for it. I think I paid like $150, $160, which is what it was originally going for when it first came out. So I did good on that. And I also wanted, if I wanted to get this figure, I wanted to get the Ric. And let's talk about the Ric for a couple seconds. The Ric is basically just this mini replica version of the smokestacks that Hedorah was puffing on. Let's just talk about that scene just for a couple seconds. With Hedorah, it's kind of hard to get some kind of facial personality from this kaiju. You know what I'm saying? But Hedorah was able to pull it off. There's one thing I love about Hedorah. Like I said, I have a soft spot for Hedorah. I look at Hedorah like I look at Megalon, right? Megalon has a lot of personality, you know what I'm saying? Megalon, in Godzilla's Megalon, he could be vicious, he could be very funny, he can be a great fighter, he can be a great tag team partner, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, he could be vicious, funny, he just displays so many personality traits all within one film, right? Hedorah's kind of like the same way, where he can be such a serious, dangerous threat, you know what I'm saying? Then also he can show some personality, like when he gets the better of Godzilla in certain exchanges, we see him laughing, you know, whatever. And in this scene in particular, Hedorah makes landfall, right? From transforming from his tadpole form to the landing stage form, right? Before we get to this form. And he gets on top of this building right here, or at least a variation of this building. And he gets on top of the building and starts sucking the fumes from these smokestacks. And it's like, you see Hedorah and they have a close-up of his face, at least his eyes, right? Because he doesn't really have like a normal face like you and I would have, right? You know, so he's able to convey a lot of his emotions or his personality through his movements or through his eyes. And as he's smoking on the smokestacks or puffing on the smokestacks, and you can draw your own conclusion from that. Is he getting high? Is he getting nourishment? Is he feeding himself? Whatever you want to call it, it's up to your interpretation. But he's sucking the smokestacks, and it's like his eyes just close, like he's enjoying himself. He's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And like I said, you could come to your own conclusion what you mean by that. Is he really enjoying himself? Is he somebody like equivalent to like eating a good steak or something like that? And then when Godzilla roars, it interrupts his meal or his nourishment. He just snaps out of it and just looks over and he gives Godzilla a look like, really? Oh man, that's an awesome scene. But once again, this is a great piece. It's made of, I want to say, I think ABS plastic. Not really sure, but it's really sturdy. It's not made of soft vinyl material like Hedorah, mind you. So it looks really good. Really detailed, you know what I'm saying? It's very simplistic, really. And for the price between this one and the standard, I think the standard was like maybe like $110, $120. And like I said, this was like $150, $160, $30 or $40 for something like this. It's not bad, especially in the grand scheme of things. Especially if you want to recreate that iconic moment from the film, you know. But I have to say, I think I have it within arm's reach. It's around here somewhere. Let's see. Hold on one second. Cut. Back to action. Now, as I was saying, I wanted to bring up this version of Hedorah. Of course, this is the landing stage version of Hedorah. Basically the second stage form of Hedorah that we see in the film before he transforms into this form. Pretty much, it's pretty much the same one. It's the same stage, obviously. It's just that this one is more upright while this one is on all fours crawling. And even though this one came with the soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah, and as you can see, you can actually put Hedorah on top of the smokestacks and actually recreate a good, that moment in the film, right? I actually find this one goes better with the landing stage. As you can see, mind you, he's not completely on top of it like this, but this kind of like how it was. It's more so like this than it was with this version of Hedorah, That's why if you have this version of Hedorah, and if you have the Ric exclusive version to this Hedorah, you can actually put this Ric exclusive piece with this Hedorah. And actually, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, it works better with this version of Hedorah. You know what I'm saying? So, as you can see here, this looks good with this. I mean, they look good with both, but if I had to choose one, I'm going with this one because it looks better with this one, obviously. But it still is a great feature to have, and I'm glad I was able to get my hands on this. But back to Hedorah, back to the soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah. Great piece, you know what I'm saying? It's very simplistic, I'm going to be very simplistic with this review. If you got the other Hedorahs from X Plus, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just that it's more darker, paint-wise. The sculpt is awesome, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, the soft vinyl material incorporated into this figure actually makes it more desirable, actually makes it worth the investment, you know what I mean? Because once again, I passed on this, but I was like, you know what? I have a soft spot for Hedorah. I'm like, if I find one for a good price, I'm going to go after it. And I'm glad I did. Because this was the one that got away from me last year, looking back on it now. And I even said that in my S Plus 2018 haul, that if there was one figure I wish I could turn back the hands of time and try to get for a good price, it would be Hedorah. Even though I was perfectly happy with everything I accomplished collector-wise that year, but out of all the figures that got away, or the one that I wish I could have gone back and gotten, Hedorah was at the top of the list. I'm glad I got my hands on it, you know what I mean? Huge shout out to Eric Arrington, of course Andy Peters, and of course everybody in the awesome collecting Facebook group dedicated to Hedorah, the Hedorah Fanatics Facebook group. Yes, there is a Facebook group devoted to people that love Hedorah and people that love Hedorah collectibles. Want to give you a huge shout out to everybody in that group. Like I said, especially Andy Peters, especially Eric Arrington, because I know there are huge Hedorah fans, you know what I'm saying? And so am I, to a certain extent. I love Hedorah. Hedorah is really an amazing monster, a game-changing monster, but I'll talk about that later on. But sculpt-wise, paint-wise, the Ric exclusive feature of this figure, you can't go wrong with this Hedorah. So I highly suggest if you can find one for a good price, especially if you're a fan of Hedorah, especially if you have the other Hedorahs, once you pair this Hedorah up against the landing stage, the fourth form, 25cm version, especially the bigger, awesome 30cm final form of Hedorah, once you see all those together, which you will see in size comparisons in a few seconds, I think you will make a good investment investing in this Hedorah. All right? So, do things around here. Let's get not up close and personal, we already done that. Let's do a couple size comparisons, and then we'll wrap up this review with my thoughts of Hedorah as a Kaiju and Godzilla vs. Hedorah, also known as Godzilla vs. Smog Monster. And speaking of the Godzilla, let's go with the first size comparison right now with the king of the monsters himself, the monster that Hedorah opposed in this film, Godzilla. All right, let's bring up the 25cm Godzilla 1971 figure from X Plus, and let's do that size comparison right now. Okay, folks, here we are with the first size comparison. Yes, and alongside the 25cm soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah, Ric Exclusive Edition, we have, yes, the monster that tried to stop him in this epic film of Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, with the X Plus 25cm 1971 version of Godzilla. And as you can see, they look well together. They pair well together. Once again, this is such an iconic moment, especially when you have the Ric Exclusive piece right there. You know what I'm saying? That was just an awesome moment in the film, you know what I'm saying? And just, I already touched on it early on, so, but still, Hedorah smoking the smokestacks, at least sucking the fumes from the smokestacks. He's trying to get some nourishment. Like I said, it's up to your interpretation of what that means. And then Godzilla disturbs him. And if you really look at the scene, Hedorah was the one that attacked Godzilla first. So in a way, Godzilla is the victim here. But Godzilla knows. Godzilla, this was at the point in the Godzilla film series. And I mentioned this many times before. I think this was at the point, this was the first time that Godzilla really becomes the hero of Japan and the hero of the world and all that good stuff. Of course, they turned him in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. I mean, they turned him there, obviously, where he went from villain to hero. But to me, it was a slow burn. It wasn't like Gamera, you know what I'm saying, where he was a threat in the first film. He was a tweener. He was like a threat and a hero in Baragon. Then he becomes a full-fledged superhero in Gauss. And then he becomes a kiddie-friendly superhero in Veras and the rest of the film series. You know what I'm saying? It was a somewhat spontaneous turn for Gamera. But with Godzilla, I feel like it was a slow burn. I think in like films like Monster Zero or Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, he was like the lesser between two evils. Now, in those films, he's still a threat. You know what I'm saying? Even like in Destroy All Monsters, even though he's controlled by the aliens, Godzilla does do his fair share of damage. He is, for the majority of the film, he is opposing humanity, right? That's why I say, you know, even though children started to get more behind them, character-wise, even though they turned him and Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, it was a slow burn. But in this film, as well as Guy Again, Megalon, and the rest of the Showa films in the 70s, that's when Godzilla really chose to rise up and become a hero. You know what I'm saying? Thank God he did, because Hedorah was such an awesome monster. You know what I'm saying? Hedorah was such an awesome monster and dangerous monster that, as humans, they really conveyed this in the story. Humans and Hedorah cannot coexist. It's either one or the other one. You know what I'm saying? It's either we survive on this planet or Hedorah survives on this planet. We can't have both. But thank God Godzilla intervened on our behalf to bring down Hedorah. You know what I'm saying? Of course, it was a battle. Godzilla had to earn that victory, you know what I mean? And I'm glad that he did, because, like I said, without his help, who knows what would have happened if Hedorah was able to wreak havoc all over the world. And thanks for our intervention, you know, humans and the military intervention. It took the combined might for humans and Godzilla to coexist and come together to really bring a stop to Hedorah, I think. And thank God that we did, especially in the film. Once again, great size comparison between Godzilla and Hedorah here. You know what I'm saying? This Godzilla really goes well with the other Hedorahs that the S Plus has done. Especially the final 4th form 25cm version, especially the landing stage. Now the 30cm version, he's a little bit larger than what he should be to be size accurate with the film. But he still looks great alongside that version of Hedorah as well. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully they're not done with this version of Godzilla or this version of Hedorah. Hopefully we'll get a 30cm 71 Godzilla, and hopefully we'll get maybe like a tadpole version of Hedorah, especially a flying one. Between the two, I want to see a flying version of Hedorah. You know what I mean? But more on that later on. So yeah, this is it, the first size comparison. So let's go with the next and last size comparison. I'm gonna bring up all the other Hedorahs I have here in my collection. So let's go with that size comparison right now. Okay, folks, this is the last size comparison, and I have all the Hedorahs. A giant Hedorah formation. Can you imagine if these four got together and made up a big, gigantic, super gigantic version of Hedorah? Oh man, we'll be screwed. We will be screwed big time. Oh yes, let's go down the line, shall we? Of course, the man in the hour in the forefront is the soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah, Ric Exclusive edition. Of course, from left to right, I have the 25cm final form of Hedorah. I have in the back the big guy, the 30cm Ric Exclusive edition of Hedorah with the light up eyes, you know. And I also have right to the far right, you saw him earlier, the landing stage of Hedorah, courtesy of Diamond. Thank you, Diamond, for making that happen. Cause I know that figure in particular has gone for crazy money back in the day. Like literally, I have seen that figure go for $900. I'm sorry, ain't doing it. Ain't doing it, but hey, Hedorah was offered for maybe like $100. That version of Hedorah through Diamond. So thank you very much, Diamond and S Plus, for making it happen. As you can see, these look so great together. Once again, I mentioned earlier just now in the first size comparison that I hope they're not done with Hedorah. I hope they make a tadpole version. Excuse me. And here's my suggestion. S Plus, if you're listening, if you're watching, here's my suggestion for the tadpole version of Hedorah. Make a tadpole version of Hedorah. Make that obviously the standard. The Ric Exclusive, why don't you do what you did with the Ric Exclusive edition of Hedorah that you brought out earlier this year? Remember, Hedorah had the water base, but you can detach some of Hedorah's legs and tails and insert the main body into the base to make it look like Hedorah is rising up out of the water. How about with the tadpole version of Hedorah? Why don't you put him in like a dirty water base? You know what I'm saying? Maybe have like one of those ships that he destroyed in the beginning of the film. Maybe have that embedded into the base, kind of like the rusted and worn down ship that's embedded into the upcoming Kong 2.0 base. You know what I'm saying? Why not incorporate these two together to have like a dirty water with the ship sunken into the base, and incorporate that as like a base and make that the Ric Exclusive edition of a tadpole version of Hedorah if you ever do one. You know what I mean? Just a suggestion. Or I want to see a flying one. I definitely want to see a flying version of Hedorah, and I think we will at some point. You know what I'm saying? This soft vinyl crawler version of Hedorah is proof that, you know, there are other avenues of Hedorah that they can go down. You know, there's not too many left, but they can definitely do a tadpole. And like I said, I want to see them do a flying one. Maybe the flying one comes with light up eyes, or either come with a base underneath where he's spewing, you know, his sulfuric acid mist fumes over like an industrial city. Kind of like the industrial Ric Exclusive piece right there. Why not have like a little mini city or mini industrial factory underneath Hedorah as he flies over it? That would be cool. You know what I'm saying? Just a suggestion. Just a suggestion. But until then, these are great versions of Hedorah, and you're probably wondering which one is my favorite. I was going to save this until this tail end of the review, but I'll go into it now. My favorite version is the big guy in the back. I love the 30cm version of Hedorah. Obviously, I mentioned the bigger figures, obviously, but that one really is a great figure. And it comes with light up eyes. That was one I was really trying to hunt down for a long time. It took me a few years to hunt that one down. Mind you, I did have the standard at one time, but I've always wanted the one with the red eyes. So I'm glad I was able to get my hands on that one. Number two, actually, you know what? The soft vinyl version, the crawling version. Yes, that is my second favorite version of Hedorah. He is awesome. Like I said, the soft vinyl material, the darker paint scheme on that version of Hedorah makes him so desirable. Once again, if you're a Hedorah fan, you need to have this guy in your collection. Period. End of story. Whether it's the standard or the Ric, please get your hands on this figure. Third, I'm actually going to go with the landing stage version of Hedorah. Because once again, that took some years on my part to try to go after. And he does look good. He does look really good, especially once you put the factory up against him, like I mentioned. Like I said, between the two Hedorahs, the crawling one and the upright landing version, I think the factory goes better with the upright landing version. But the factory still looks good with either one. And finally, my last favorite one is, of course, the 25cm force form. Even though I have to say that version of Hedorah is probably the most suit accurate version of Hedorah, especially the Ric, because you know it comes with alternate arms, it comes with light up features, it also comes with glitter all over Hedorah's body. Because remember, at the end of the film, you know, whenever light is flashed upon Hedorah, you can see the suit actually glistening, you know, with glitter or whatever. So out of all the Hedorahs, that is the one that's most suit accurate. But like I said, my favorite, top to bottom, is of course the 30cm version, then the soft vinyl crawling version, then the landing stage, and of course the 25cm fourth form. Either way, they're all great figures, and once again, they're coming out with a soft vinyl version of the 25cm final form, which should be due out next month in October. You know what I'm saying? I might go after that one. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But until then, this is my Hedorah collection, and as you can see, they look so well together. And speaking of Hedorah, let's wrap up this my review with my final thoughts of Hedorah as a kaiju in Godzilla vs. Hedorah. So let's go to that video commentary, the video, right now. Okay, I'm back, folks, for my final thoughts of the X Plus 25cm soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah Ric Exclusive Edition, based off his appearance in the iconic, yes, I'm going to say iconic because I love this film, and just epic, really funky, weird, psychedelic film. Bizarre film, but still a great film from 1971. Godzilla vs. Hedorah, also known as Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. Once again, get this figure. You know what I'm saying? really get this figure, especially if you're a Hedorah fan. You need to add this one to your collection. Now, as far as Godzilla vs. Smog Monster, I have maintained to this day that this film, in my opinion, is one of the, if not the most underrated Godzilla film of all time. It's a film that really stands out. It's really unique. And whether you love it or hate it, there's no other Godzilla film like it, before or since then. And I think that's the beauty of this film, the fact that it does stand out. Now, mind you, kind of like the original Godzilla film, and I think this is something that's kind of lost when it comes to watching this film. That this film, even though it's entertaining, even though it's bizarre, it's all these different things. It's very unique. I think lost within this film, once you watch it, or if you're one of these fans that dismiss it because it is so bizarre that you don't want to go into it, that this really is a film at its core warns of the dangers of pollution. And kind of like the original Godzilla, as I mentioned earlier, Godzilla in the original 54 film, not the King of the Monsters version, more so the original one, Gojira. Godzilla is pretty much the living embodiment of nature fighting back, or nature's retaliation over the modern world. Because, you know, as humans, we dropped the atomic bomb, you know, whatever, and we did have a harmful impact on the environment. So Godzilla is more so a metaphor of nature fighting back in the original film. And it's kind of like very poetic that in this film, Hedorah is really the living embodiment of pollution. Because at that point, especially in Japan, Japan was going through a rapid economic expansion. You know, they were going through mass industrializations of the country. Where they started producing all these products like steel, oil, or whatever, and they produced so much and accumulated so much that it came at the expense of the environment, and it got to the point where the pollution problems in Japan, as well as the whole world, was too big of a problem to ignore anymore. And since Godzilla was at the time, you know, back in 1970, because they set that year out, you know what I mean? That was during the time where Godzilla was going through somewhat of a resurgence, you know what I mean? Because after the release of Destroy All Monsters, which was intended to be the final Godzilla film, up until that point, they decided that they were going to end Godzilla with Destroy All Monsters. But after Destroy All Monsters became a success, to a certain extent, they was like, you know what? We can still have more stories with this character. There's still more mileage left in this character. So they came forth with Godzilla's Revenge, and then they set out in 1970, and it came out in 1971 with this film. Like I said, it gave Godzilla a resurgence. And it's very poetic that, in my opinion, they used basically Japan's most popular property in Godzilla to really send a message not only out to Japan, but to the whole world that, you know, we really need to keep this pollution problem in check. And they did a great job of displaying Hedorah as such an awesome, amazing, dangerous, threatening villain. We see Hedorah killing people left and right. Like, nobody can come in contact with Hedorah and live to tell about it. That's what they convey with Hedorah in this film. And to me, Hedorah is a game-changing kaiju. The last game-changing kaiju, as far as like the tokusatsu universe when it comes to Godzilla, was really King Ghidorah, right? He was the first space monster. He was big. He was powerful, you know, whatever. It just proves that other creatures are out there in space that may come to Earth and want to wreak havoc. But with Hedorah is also a game-changing kaiju in its own right, because this was the first time, in my opinion, like I said many times before, where it made me feel for Godzilla's safety. Even Godzilla himself was unable to fight Hedorah and take him down on his own. And that is something we have never seen before prior to this point. All the monsters that Godzilla fought, whether it's maybe, you know, Rodan, King Ghidorah, Ebirah, Kumonga, Kamacuras, you know, whatever, he fought those monsters and basically won relatively easy. You know what I'm saying? The outcome of him winning was never in doubt. But with Hedorah, there are so many moments in the film where Godzilla comes this close, or at least gaining some type of advantage over Hedorah, or Hedorah would either fly away, get away, or just would not succumb to whatever Godzilla would do. Especially at that point in the film, especially when the soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah right here, this version of Hedorah fights Godzilla, and Godzilla blows his fire on top of Hedorah for the first time in the film, and Hedorah just looks at him and stares at him. Mind you, the sparks are flying over Hedorah. Godzilla blows his fire on him. You know what I'm saying? Hedorah just looks at him. Then Godzilla blows his fire on him again. Again, nothing happens. Godzilla at that point was like, he put his hands over his mouth. He was like, oh man, cause even Godzilla himself was amazed. Even him was astonished, like, look, I just blew my fire on him. Normally that would burn any other kaiju. Once again, Hedorah is not like any other kaiju. And they did a great job of conveying that in this film. Once again, Hedorah was such a great monster, and it really set the tone for the 70s films with these outlandish other monsters that would follow with Gigan, Megalon, Mechagodzilla, King Caesar, you know what I'm saying? I think without Hedorah, the 70s films, like I said, wouldn't have the outlandish monsters, you know, whatever. And once again, this film really stands out in so many different ways. And I really implore all the Godzilla fans, or at least new fans that are coming into the hobby and coming into the genre, despite what you have heard from other people that may hate this film or quickly dismiss it because it is bizarre, please take that out of your mind. Please try and watch this film. Please try to enjoy this film and take it. This film was made during the signs of the times. You know what I'm saying? It was made during a time where Japan and the entire world was going through a crisis with the environment. We're really feeling the effects to this day. Like if we see like smog in these major metropolitan cities, or if we see the ocean just drenched with oil or with dead fish or whatever, that's basically the living embodiment of Hedorah. Hedorah, even though it's not a giant sludge monster that exists in the world today, various forms of Hedorah really do exist all over the world. Hopefully we can get a grasp on that. But I love how they use this Godzilla to really drive that message home, that we really need to get ourselves in check and take care of this planet that we all are living on. Because you never know. A huge, giant, threatening sludge monster may come up and rise up to take us all out, and we won't have a Godzilla to defend us. So I love how that film really conveyed that message. You know what I'm saying? Once again, great monster. I love Hedorah. You know what I'm saying? I don't really count his appearance in Final Wars. Yes, truth be told, Hedorah was in Final Wars for 2 straight seconds. I think the real deal of Hedorah is right here. All these guys are the real deal of Hedorah. And once again, I love these figures. Once again, get your hands on this figure. You will not be disappointed. Alright, so that pretty much concludes my review of the X Plus 25cm soft vinyl crawler version of Hedorah Ric Exclusive Edition, based on his iconic appearance in the iconic 1970s funky, weird, bizarre, great, whatever you want to call it, Godzilla film. Godzilla vs. Hedorah, also known as Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. You have any questions, holler me down in the comment section. Hit me on Facebook via Leslie P. Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, a great figure. I'm glad I got it. Yes. Once again, I said this many times before. I have no problem saying it again here. If you're a huge fan of Hedorah, please get this figure. If you don't have a Hedorah in your collection, please get this figure. Once again, the soft vinyl material incorporated in this Hedorah really does set it apart from the other Hedorahs, but he still looks good along with the rest of them. And once again, we got a new one coming up next month, the 25cm final form of Hedorah. Basically the same one like this one. I think his arms are down, but it's made of the same material as a soft vinyl one. So maybe if you've got extra money, if you're able to get your hands on it, please do so. You would not be disappointed. Once again, I'm so glad I got it. It really is an awesome piece. It really is. Now, if you're wondering what is coming up next on Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews, I mentioned earlier that I do have a couple of figures that I did just recently get my hands on. Whoa, you have to wait to the very end of the video to see what is coming up next. Now, I think you'll like it. I think you will enjoy it. Once again, I have a few more figures reviews besides this one. And I got a couple of live streams I'm getting off the ground. You know what I'm saying? More on that later on. So I know I've been away for at least 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm back, and you know, content will be flowing here on the channel. So hopefully you will not be disappointed, and just sit back and relax and enjoy what I have in store for us here on Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. In the meantime, get this figure. You will not be disappointed with this version of Hedorah. Yes, the X Plus 25cm soft vinyl crawling version of Hedorah Ric Exclusive Edition or the Standard Edition, based off his iconic appearance in Godzilla vs. Smog Monster, also known as Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Alright? So thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all again on this figure move review. Alright? Y'all take it easy.